Hi, folks. Thanks everyone for joining. Simon, we're getting up to about 60 and growing now. So, would we give it another minute or two before we kick off?
I think we should be all right to go. To be honest, I
Yeah,
think we don't need to keep people hanging around for too long. I don't think.
good stuff.
Yep. Who's pinging there? Is that me or is that somebody else? I don't think it's me.
That was
Um,
me. So it's not me anymore.
all right, fair enough. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the next in the design playback sessions. This one today, I hope it's going to be a relatively quick one. It's a bit of a reflection back on what we've covered in the past 4 or 5 weeks and what the opportunities are to move forward. I've pulled together it's a fairly visual deck just to highlight what we've touched on, the level of engagement we've had, where the materials are, and then going to open it up into a more sort of open discussion about what we could do to support you guys over the remaining weeks before we appreciate that the window through to the end of the comment window is going to close fairly quickly. But let me just move on. Session overview, here we are. Yeah, so it's part of the overview stream. So we're just updated on the playback sessions that have happened and some insights that we've drawn from those. Is to give you a bit of a review of what's occurred in the playback and signposted if you want to go and review individual sessions or something along those lines. How to access materials in there and the outcomes, and also I think we should discuss collectively what the next steps should be. There are some constraints around this, but there's also some opportunities. So we're looking for your feedback on that one because we don't have preconceptions of what the next step should be. As usual, the slides and everything else like that will be on the website very quickly, as will the video. We're going to use Slido whilst I ping through the slides, and then Kevin will help me just in case any questions are raised. But then I think it's a question of, we will open up the chat or we'll open up the raising hands so we can have a bit of discussion about what went well, what didn't go so well, and things like that. So just in terms of a quick review of the playback so far, we've held 14 sessions as we planned. There's a couple of hours in there in the overviews, which I've done. We've had nearly 9 hours in the end-to-end walkthroughs, 4 hours of deep dives, and nearly 4 hours of the surgeries last week. So in total, if you're a glutton for punishment on YouTube, there's nearly a full day's worth there of design playback material for people to review, and they'll remain available as we go through. When it comes to the plan on the page, we've cleared all of the activities that you said we would do. We've got 3 left there in the design overview. There's the potential for us to go and do the introduction piece again next week. And then we were intending to have a retrospective, which is similar to this one at the end of the month, just to see if there's anything we could pick up for future program activities, future design engagement, which we could run more as a proper sort of sad, mad, glad type approach to reviewing things in a proper program context. And then down there on the design deep dives, there is and I say we'll come to this later, but there is an opportunity for us to do a little more on certain topics if we get the kind of pull for them and we can get the bandwidth into the subject matter experts to support that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a series of pretty pictures for those 14 sessions that we've had. I'm not going to dwell too long on each one of these, but so there you go for attendees at the original playback plan, which was I think on the 2nd of August, and last we had 305, and then in the walkthrough of the design there was 150, and that seemed to be where more or less we sat, 150 or so for each of the end-to-end walkthroughs that happened across the next couple of weeks of the program. Slightly reduced numbers into the deep dives, as you might expect, as we're drilling down into the subject matter that was there, but still really good engagement. Lots and lots of people joining in, raising lots of questions. And then in the surgeries last week, some of them were quite brief, some of them weren't. Sean, as usual, carried the heavy weight of most of the challenging questions around the topics he was covering. But just as a summary, across those 18 sessions, 14 sessions and 18 hours, we've had 1,600 people join us for these discussions, which I think is a brilliant number. And on behalf of the program, we just want to thank everybody that's helped us play the design back to you guys, get the engagement, get those questions in through the Slido. That's helped us identify areas that we might need to go back and review, or that there are opportunities for them to make things clearer. And when it comes to the questions, this is again across those 14 sessions, we've seen over 550 questions raised. The little sort of sunburst picture there tells you where the questions were. And again, Sean, I think, was asking on Friday if he'd answered more questions than anybody else. I think absolutely, Sean, definitely. I don't know what that means, whether you're just able to, you're on the subjects that are exercising people most, or you're more amenable to having questions raised. But again, 558 questions. Kevin and the guys have led an excellent effort into try and get the Q&As responsive. We are looking at how we take this bank of sort of a material and start to build out a more informed set of frequently asked questions and a better approach to knowledge management around the design. And we'll be doing that in the coming weeks and months. The focus at the moment is on helping you guys review and comment upon the design, and then processing those comments and resolving them, so that we have a baseline to aim at the end of October. But in the background, we are still working on reflecting on where we're getting questions right from this is the first time you've engaged with the program, through to the real detail at the edge of some of the more challenging technical processes. All of the materials are now available. I think there's a link there in the slides that you'll get for the playlist on YouTube. I checked on Friday afternoon, and again, on top of the 1,600 that have engaged, we've had 780 views, and it looks like the older the session is, the more views it's got, so we can expect those numbers to go up. It's again, it's encouraging. I think the surgeries will be on there fairly soon. Kevin, yes?
They are up as of this morning.
Brilliant, thank you. So again, and look, we'll keep looking at this, and if there are areas or we get comments against those videos, the team will be notified, so we'll be able to process those. I did notice that across the 14, we'd had no likes yet, but you know, this is the modern world. I'm sure nobody wants to be favoriting the deep dive on unmetered, but there you go. And then just again, further signposting. All the materials, so the slides and the recordings, are available through the public website. You don't need to be on the collaboration base in order to be able to get hold of these. So that's effectively everything that we've delivered and the level of engagement that we've had with those sessions. We think it's been reasonably successful as we've gone through. What I wanted to share was a little bit of, we've done some reflection internally in my team and in Ian's team, and then across the program. And I think we've been able to reflect that we have been getting the right people engaged in those sessions. We were getting questions that went down to the level of detail on the process or the subject, or about the consequential impacts of these things, that meant that, and it's thanks to you guys, we've been having the right attendees for the right sessions, raising the right levels of questions. And as I say, we were seeing, and I sat and listened on most of these, the complexity in non-standard metering, you know, disconnections in blocks of flats, things like that. The implications of changes to data flows in the registration processes were quite key. And in the technical ones, there was all kinds of acronyms around interfaces and volumes and things like that. So again, I think reflecting upon these sessions, we've had good engagement with the right level of engagement, the right kinds of questions being asked in the right sessions. There will be some questions that we haven't resolved yet. There are some aspects of the design that require further discussion, but these haven't been significant either in volume or in material in their sort of their subject matter. So again, the design as presented by the program reflects the discussions of the industry over the previous, not just the 9 months, but the program activities that came before it. And so again, I think it's fair to say that, subject to the comments that come in, we're not picking up on any particularly fundamental challenges with the design, which is again, it speaks to the level of engagement that we've had from the industry, and this inclusive design-led approach that the program's been taking to make sure that we are capturing as much of the collaboration as we can do, and the program is merely documenting these things rather than going away and producing stuff and then putting it out for comment and consultation. So we would hope that we would see a similar level of engagement in the comment window, as in we will get, clearly people will be raising points, people have got concerns, particularly around consequential change and some of the edge areas, but we hope there's going to be no sort of showstopper comments coming in from multiple cohorts of participants. And then, you know, as I said, this one wasn't going to take too long, so I'm into my almost my final page here. It'd be useful, we haven't had any questions come up on the Slido yet, from our perspective, we think this has gone reasonably well, but it'd be interesting to know from those of you that joined any of the sessions, did we miss anything that you were expecting to see? Are there areas of the design that we could have spent more time on? As it says there on the slide, the comment window closed on the 16th, and so we could try and get a deep dive or a Q&A or something specific stood up with Sean or Kevin or whoever, or supported by myself or Paul or some of the guys from the assurance team, that we could do this with people. There is the open day tomorrow, where we could, for those of you that are attending, and there's even the virtual open day. We're looking for engagement there and feedback if you've got some. And I've got a point there that I did one on the 5th of August, which was just basically a walkthrough of from the Tom right through to the Patrick, and what does an EDA and everything else there. We had planned to do that one again for people that might have missed it due to be in August. I might have a funeral on the 14th, so we might just point people to the existing video and slide deck rather than make everybody sit down and log in to hear essentially what I said a month ago. But that's something that we'll take on inside of our team discussions. But effectively now, I think that's the end of what I wanted to cover. I said it wasn't going to take too long. I've got straight in 10 minutes. Is there any? Has anybody got any points they'd like to raise? Certainly put your hand up, or ping a message in the chat that you'd like to see the program do more on the playback over the coming sort of week and a half, or things we could pick up for further communications.
Just while we're waiting for the hands to go up there, Simon, as well, just to let people know, there's also be a session this Thursday outside of the design playbacks that's going to be centered around the comment review process. Audience is aimed at any participants who are planning to leave comments or provided comments already on the design artifacts. Really helpful just to get an understanding of what that process looks like, what you can expect from the design team, and any requirements of yourself during that period as well.
Thanks, Kevin. It looks like we're not getting too many questions or thoughts on this one. I don't want to keep anybody longer than they need to. I know this session was between me and my sandwich. It doesn't mean that's why I kept it to 10-15 minutes. But look, if this has been, how we go. We got a couple coming now, I think, Kevin. Okay, there's one that's positive.
Yes, that's good. Yeah.
The migration one, I'll let you facilitate this, Kevin, rather than me reading one screen. And
yeah, no worries. I'm not kick it off there. So do you have a view of what an account needs to look like for migration? Parties can then start to see how much data cleanse they need to do.
That's not one that I can handle. I know Sean's on. Are you still on, Sean? Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, we're working up the transition design. I think we're going to present some initial thoughts to the migration group, I think on Thursday.
Yeah.
So I think it's still early days with all of that, and we'll be working with the migration working group to pad that out over the coming weeks. So it's a bit of a watch the space one, really.
Super, thanks, Sean. A point here just saying it was difficult to respond to answers with follow-up questions / clarifications using Slido. I suppose for us, Simon, it's about trying to find that balance between having the chat open, having Slido there, being able to respond to questions as they come in. But I'm not sure how going forward, we could alter that to a little bit more discussion, perhaps.
We're trying to find a balance between covering all the material at hand and then picking things up afterwards. So in the walkthroughs, very conscious there was a lot of material to squeeze into, even to a 2-hour session. But then looking for more sort of interactive engagement through the surgeries in particular. But yeah, it's absolutely it's finding that balance between covering the material and covering it for a breadth of understanding within the audience, and then getting into more of a workshop meeting type discussion of the content. So this was, and I'm defending this, but it's effectively we were trying to do a playback to get as many people up to as level a playing field as possible. Appreciate that some areas might have wanted deeper discussion, and people do get, and I'm guilty of it, you want to get into the nuts and bolts of the discussion. But that's something that we will certainly be picking up as we move forward, dealing with the comments, dealing with the design once we get past the baseline.
Super. Some good pieces here about useful feedback from Helix, just in terms of how well they found the overview, which is great to see. So thank you for that. We have a note here saying consumption journey from an end-to-end perspective would have been useful, e.g. MS to DS to supplier to ECS, etc.
Okay. That's something we can take away and have a think about. Yep.
People are also looking for an end-to-end run-through of the new settlement timetable, including disputes, would have been useful as well. So perhaps something we can bring together there with those two pieces.
Yes. Yeah.
A person here saying they've not managed to attend all the sessions. Was the subject of related MPANs covered in any of them? I think that was brought up as a question quite a lot. Maybe Sean, you might be best placed if you can remember which sessions they were. MPAN ownership.
I think MPAN ownership and the metering one, I think we touched on in both.
Yeah. Definitely touched on there, and definitely some questions come through about related. I'm actually pretty sure I was looking at some of the answers you provided this morning, Sean. So they'll be up on the Q&A as soon as we get the next batches up. Thanks for sharing mapping of the D-flow and interfaces. It would be great if you can also provide as-is processes in line with comparison to 2B processes.
That might be a little tricky. I don't know if you'd agree, Sean and Justin, for us to do that. The as-is processes are where the world sits at the moment, and what we've tried to highlight is how we implement the TOM in the 2Bs. We don't have a huge window of time either. It's something that I think will emerge and get clearer as we go through the process, but I don't think we're going to have the time to do that sort of before and after view for all of the 21 processes.
Okay.
No, that's right. However, I think when the code drafting is done, or part of the code drafting process, you will see some as is and 2B, because you'll see the changes.
Yep.
There's a follow-up question to that there, just saying that the as is and to be need to be done for the legal text anyway.
Yeah, which is as Justin's just said. Yeah.
Another piece here saying, a deep dive by impact to market participants, either supplier or MEM, would have been beneficial from an operational perspective. I think the issue might be there is in terms of how many numbers you get. That's how many sessions if we've 10 plus constituency groups, etc.
We did consider going by constituency. We did sort of an earlier session in March. Ian and I we did that by constituent groups, and then we reflected that. And I think it was Sean's idea to do the sort of the customer journey, the MPAN ownership meter to bank, that thing. I think that worked out quite well because whilst it was perhaps though when it was listening to elements about suppliers and vice versa, we did cover the whole picture in those sort of those 4 sessions.
And then just a final piece here asking if we could please provide that as is 2B comparison at a later date, perhaps.
Okay, well, we'll take that on board. Yeah.
Nothing else coming in for the time being, Simon.
Okay. Well, I think thanks for the feedback there. Useful. There's a couple of concepts there that we've got a little sort of team huddle at 4 o'clock, and we're together for the open day tomorrow. So those sessions on the settlement timetable and other subjects that were raised, we can think about what we might do to address those. But if I don't want to keep anybody any longer than they need to, thanks for all the support. I think there's some, as I said in those slides, some really great engagement. We've had some excellent questions raised, and we're really thankful for the support that you guys have raised. I need to thank Kevin and Marina and all the guys, and Sean and Justin and the other Kevin, etc. for helping with this one. But I think we've made a good start to the playback, and I hope everybody's in a position now to review the design from a more informed space, and we look forward to receiving the comments, I guess, although I say that slightly delicately for some of my colleagues on the SRO side. But if there's nothing else, then Kevin, I think we're good to wrap up now.
All good to wrap up. Brilliant. Thank you, Simon.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.